say someone's always watching you. Maybe it's a metaphor. Maybe it's paranoia. But what if it's something else? Something ancient. Something patient. Somewhere beneath the skin of reality. A room exists. You don't remember entering. You never see it coming. One blink, and everything changes. This is the story of someone who didn't just find the Watchers. He became one. Before we begin, where are you listening from? Tell me in the comments. I became a Watcher, and this is my journey. I'm writing this from an old dusty computer. I don't even know if this will work. But since I'm down here for the rest of my life, I might as well make use of my free time. There's no signal, no Wi-Fi, no internet browser I can find. Just a black terminal window with a blinking green cursor. And somehow, Reddit is the only site I can access. Don't ask me how. If I had to guess, it's part of the design. This place is called the Witness Room. That's not official. It's just what I started calling it after I figured out what it does. If you've read this far, and this actually posts, then I guess the room wants you to see this. I didn't fall into a portal. I didn't get abducted by aliens. I wasn't sleepwalking or drugged or anything else that makes this easier to explain. I was just at home, sitting on the floor, staring at the wall, thinking about how I hadn't done anything useful with my life. And then I blinked, and I was here. There was one door. Don't ask, I've already tried everything to open it. No windows, no bed, no toilet. Just concrete walls, stale air. A massive black screen embedded in the wall in front of a single plastic chair and a metal desk with a computer in front of it. No lights I could see, but the room was dimly lit anyway. It's always the same level of light, no matter how long I wait. No shadows, just a dull gray atmosphere like the inside of a mausoleum. The screen turned on by itself, and it showed me, not just me standing there, but me before, from moments in my life. A camera angle over my shoulder at my 10th birthday party. A shot from my college dorm window, zoomed in through the blinds. One clip was from inside my own living room, showing me watching TV last week. I never noticed the camera, because there wasn't one. And then the screen started showing people watching me. Not metaphorically, literally. In every clip, there's someone watching. Sometimes it's obvious. A man staring at me from a coffee shop booth across the street. A woman in an elevator, pretending to scroll through her phone. Other times, it's subtle, just a figure in the background of a reflection. A shadow under the bed that doesn't belong to anyone. At first, I thought I had absolutely lost my mind or fell asleep and ended up in a nightmare. But I have been here a long time. I don't know how long, but definitely years. The screen showed me things that could not have been coincidences. A moment when I was 9, playing in my backyard, and someone was standing behind our shed, just staring. A moment when I had to have been no more than 3, playing in a sandbox. A moment when I was graduating high school. The moment I got divorced. The moment I lost my child. It never stopped. It just kept going, showing me more clips. Years and years of moments when I was being watched and never knew it. And I think one watching. If you're wondering how I eat, sleep, or use the bathroom, the quick answer is I don't. I don't need to. Maybe I died and this is some kind of hell, or maybe I died and I'm some type of guardian angel. Either way, it doesn't matter. From what I've come to understand, this room operates on some kind of cycle. The ones who are watched become the watchers. It doesn't ask for consent or offer a way out. You don't get a warning. One day, you're the subject. The next, you're the observer. I haven't found any purpose to it. It's not like I can intervene. I can't stop accidents. I can't whisper good luck into someone's ear. I just sit here, watching, always watching. That's the only function I've discovered so far. It took forever for the screen to stop showing me my life. Clip after clip of moments I forgot about, or wished I'd never remembered. And then, finally, it switched. I guess I've been assigned to someone now. It's a baby. A girl. Maybe a few months old. I don't know how or why. But she's the one I see now. Her crib, her parents feeding her, blurry snippets of their home. I know this sounds messed up, but as a man, I don't feel right about it. It's not my place to be watching a little girl grow up. It makes my skin crawl, even if I have no control over it. But I don't think this room cares much about how I feel. Luckily, I figured out that I can choose when to watch. It's not a button or a switch, more like a mental prompt. If I let my thoughts drift too long in her direction, the screen pulls her up. I don't know what happens if I ignore her for too long. I haven't tested that yet. I'm not sure I want to. Sometimes I look away for days at a time, afraid of what I might see. Other times, I sit there for hours just watching her grow. But lately, something's changed. She looks at me now, not at the screen, at me, like she knows I'm here. A few days ago, she reached her hand out and waved. She couldn't have been more than 3 years old. I waved back. Instinct, maybe. Then yesterday, she held up a piece of paper. A drawing. It was me, sitting in this chair. Same hair, same face, same shadow under my eyes. Same room. After she showed me the drawing, I shut the screen off. I just thought about nothing for a while. Sat in the chair. Stared at the wall. Thought maybe I was losing it. More than I already have. But when I turned the screen back on, she was gone. Her room was empty. Her family, her mother, they were all still there. Just no sign of her. Like she'd never existed. I waited. Hours passed. Nothing. Then the feed changed. I didn't touch anything. Didn't think anything. It just switched. Like something in the room decided I'd had my turn. Now, I was watching something else. A new screen. A new room. A man sitting in the same chair I'm in now. Same walls. Same humming. Except he was older. Maybe late 50s. Balding. He looked tired. Like he'd been in here forever. He was watching someone. A kid. A younger version of me. The man leaned closer to his screen, and for a split second, I saw it. His reflection. His eyes weren't right. Too wide. Too glassy. Like he was trapped inside himself, watching something else watching him. The feed flickered, and suddenly it wasn't his screen anymore. It was a recording of me. My childhood. Again. But this time, it wasn't how I remembered it. There was a birthday party I never had. A dog I never owned. A man standing at the edge of the backyard I'd never seen before. Wearing a watch I now realize looks exactly like the one I'm wearing now. My whole body went cold, because if this was a memory, why was I in it? Watching myself, years before I ever entered this room. The screen cut to black. This next part of my journey was written later on a different device. Sorry if it sucks. And then the door behind me unlocked for the first time. I rose, almost as if on autopilot, and stepped away from the old, dusty computer. The door swung open slowly, revealing a narrow hallway lit by a sparse, flickering light that danced along the concrete walls. The hum of the room was punctuated only by the sound of my own ragged breathing and the soft scuff of my shoes against the cold floor. The door creaked open on its own, slowly. No breeze, no pressure, no reason it should move. I didn't want to go through it. I really didn't. But I also didn't want to sit in this chair another second. So I stood, knees stiff from days, or weeks, of not moving much, and stepped toward the hallway. It was pitch black beyond the doorway, but as soon as I crossed the threshold, dim lights flickered to life along the floor, one by one, leading me forward. I followed them. This hall was different from the room I came from. The walls weren't industrial metal anymore. They were smooth, painted, beige, like a government building or a hospital from the 90s. I passed doors on either side, all closed. Each one had a small glass window. Why didn't I have one of these? I peeked into one of them and saw someone sitting in front of a big screen just like mine. Except they didn't have a desk or computer. My heart pounded as I backed away and bolted down the hall. One by one, I reached each glass window, and every time I peered through, I saw a similar scene. A solitary person seated before a big screen, their eyes empty yet fixated, as if in an endless trance. The occupants were different each time. A young woman with a tear-streaked face here, an older man with tired eyes there, even a child who looked very familiar. The child was her. I couldn't believe my eyes. She couldn't have been more than 3 years old. What kind of sick joke was this? Why was she here? I fumbled along the door, searching for any kind of handle, anything to open it. Just as I was about to slam my body into it, the door swung open with a creak. There she was, sitting on that big chair, her small face contorted with tears. I reacted instinctively, scooping her up in my arms. She stared at me with an intensity that belied her age. Then, as if on cue, she raised a tiny hand and waved at me, just like I'd seen her do before on the screen. And then, with a voice so soft it might have been the wind, she reached up and poked my nose. "You're the drawing," she said. I held her close, trying to shake off the cold shock of those words. Just who was she? How did she know me? And most importantly, why had I been watching her for so long? Only to find her here, reaching out, as if demanding I see the truth of it all. The silence in the corridor was oppressive now, every distant hum and creak a reminder of the twisted maze we were trapped in. I looked down into her eyes, searching for answers in that small, enigmatic face. There was something in her gaze, an unspoken plea, or maybe an acceptance of the fate she'd been thrust into. As I stood there, with her weight in my arms and her whispered message hanging in the air, I realized that the cycle had just become a little more personal. I wasn't just a watcher anymore. Somehow, I was meant to be a part of her story too. And with that realization, I knew there was no going back. I was in too deep now, both the watcher and the watched, bound together by a sick twist of fate that defied explanation. With her quiet, unspoken command still ringing in my ears, I took a deep breath and stepped away from the door that had brought her to me. I had to find a way out. It wasn't long before I found it. A door so massive it nearly spanned the width of the wall. My pulse drummed as I entered a massive room. The walls all around were alive with flickering screens, each one showing countless others locked in their own isolation. It was a congregation of watchers, all imprisoned in their own cycles, each one watching someone, or perhaps watching themselves. I stopped before a particularly enormous metallic door, its surface gleaming in the half-light. A strange symbol was etched into its skin, something neither ancient nor modern. Unsure if this was another trap, I hesitated only a moment before pushing it open. What I found on the other side stole my breath. A vast ruined landscape sprawled out before us, a post-apocalyptic wasteland where crumbling skyscrapers jutted from the barren ground like broken teeth. The sky was a sickly wash of colors, illuminated by a wan, permanent twilight. It was as if the world had peeled away from its old skin, revealing a harsh, unforgiving reality beyond the sterile corridors of this building. Her small hand gripped mine tightly as I stepped through, and together we navigated shattered highways and ruined cities that whispered with the memories of a lost world. After a bit of walking, our stomachs rumbled in unison, and she began to cry. Soft, pitiful sobs. For the first time since I ended up in that room, I realized I was both hungry and tired. The weight of exhaustion pressed down on me. I had to find shelter and some sort of food for us. As we walked, every ruined structure, every deserted building told a story. A time before the endless cycle of watching began. We pressed on, desperate to find any signs of life. I paused near a crumbled wall, covered in tangled ivy, the harsh remnants of the old world clinging to its surface, like ghosts of memories past. I could feel the chill seep through the fabric of my jacket, and my empty stomach roiled with the gnaw of hunger. I glanced down at her, her tiny face streaked with tears, and felt a pang of responsibility and helplessness. I haven't felt such raw vulnerability in a long time. It had to have been before my daughter died that I felt anything so piercingly human. I know I'm not her father, and she isn't the daughter I lost. But as I held this little girl in my arms, those familiar, aching emotions surged back with a force I hadn't expected. Maybe this whole thing is a sick twist of fate, a way for the powers that be to let me have another go at life. I wouldn't have chosen this map, but I guess I can't be too picky. Slowly, I put her down and took off my jacket. Then I wrapped it around her shivering form. "I'm sorry. Don't worry." I murmured more to myself than to her, my voice barely audible. We walked and walked. For how long, I couldn't even begin to guess. The girl, who I had silently started calling Mia, held my hand the whole way. She never once complained, just kept walking beside me, her small frame keeping pace with my unsteady, exhausted steps. And then, finally, through the endless gray haze, it appeared. A skyscraper. It looked untouched, like whatever had leveled the rest of the world had decided to leave this one building alone. Its glass windows still glittered against the dull sky, and the structure stood tall and proud while everything around it had decayed and rotted away. I looked down at Mia, and for the first time since all of this started, she gave me a soft, tired smile. That was enough. I pulled her along as we pushed through the old revolving doors at the front entrance. Inside, voices filled the air. Quiet, normal voices. The sound of people just talking. The moment we stepped into the lobby, those voices stopped. Everyone turned to face us. A room full of strangers, dressed in casual, worn-out clothes, covered in dust and dirt, looking at us like ghosts had just walked through the door. The building itself was strange. You could tell it used to be grand. The lobby had high, arched ceilings and a wide marble staircase that stretched toward the upper floors, though the once polished stone was now dull, covered in a thin layer of gray dust. Faded gold accents clung to the edges of door frames, tarnished and peeling. Chandeliers hung overhead, the crystals caked with grime, but still catching the faintest bit of light. It was beautiful in a sad, hollow way, like a museum of what the world used to be. Before I could process the moment, the group practically scooped us up, leading us through wide, carpeted halls into what had probably once been a conference room. A long table still sat in the center, surrounded by mismatched chairs that had clearly been scavenged from around the building. Someone brought out food, something warm and surprisingly decent, and the older people in the group immediately gravitated toward Mia, doting on her like long-lost family. The rest turned to me. One of them, a man whose beard had grown wild and silver over the years, did most of the talking. They told me I'd just been through something they all knew too well. They didn't know where this place was. They didn't know why any of it existed. All they knew was the cycle, the room, the screen, the endless task of watching, of being the eyes for a world that didn't even seem to know you were there. They didn't know who built it, or who controlled it, or if anyone even did. But there was one thing they were sure of. Very few people ever got out. The ones who did somehow found their way to this building. "We try to wait for new people at the cube," the old man said, apologizing softly. "We weren't there for you today. We're sorry for that." But I didn't even know how to respond, so I just nodded, listening as he explained the only rule they seemed to have. No one here asked about your old life. And no one ever asked about the things you saw while you were in the room. You leave that part behind, he said, his voice steady but hollow. We all do. It's the only way we get by. They gave us food, water, and finally led us upstairs to what they called the apartments. A few rooms on the upper floors had been turned into living spaces, cleaned up as best as possible. The building, surprisingly, still had electricity, still had water. The elevator even worked, and nobody could figure out why. Apparently, it always had. Food, they said, just appeared at the front doors every week. No one ever saw who delivered it or how, but there was always enough for everyone. They portioned it out and left it at each apartment door, no questions asked. Mia and I thanked them the best we could, still dazed from the whole experience, and stepped into the small apartment they'd given us. It wasn't much. A couch, a bed, an old lamp flickering in the corner. But after everything, it felt like a palace. We walked over to the window and stood there, hand in hand. The world stretched out before us like an endless graveyard. Buildings reduced to skeletons, streets swallowed by nature and time. But beyond all that, far in the distance, the silver cube still sat, shining cold and perfect in the sun. That place would always be there, watching, waiting, and now, so would we. Years passed, and me and Mia are doing great. I got married to someone who came out of the cube a couple months after we did, and we are building as good as a life as we can. I even found an old computer in one of the many rooms here, and wouldn't you believe it? It works. Unfortunately, it only has Reddit and a music playlist available on it. But hey, it's entertaining enough. Anyway, thanks for reading about my journey to my new life. And if you ever find yourself in the witness room, try and get out. This new world isn't all that bad. I'll keep you updated on progress we make learning about this new world. Bye. The Watchers, posted from an alternate universe.